So welcome to my channel. Today we are gonna do um, Phoenix Tech, where Phoenix is or Izzet. Has been a deck in Pioneer for the longest time. I think since the format was created, this has been a deck. Um, I'm just gonna go over this list. There are plenty of others with slightly different picks. You can check uh, a bunch of them on MTG Goldfish, which I recommend because it has a lot of meta deck lists. Um, but I'll talk about this list and why I like it and why I've been doing well with it. And so um, the staple of the deck is Arclight Phoenix, obviously. The deck plays around it. It's the main winning condition of the deck. So what you want to do is to cast 3 instants of sorceries in your turn and bring phoenixes out of your graveyard. If you have multiple, they'll all come back and you swing for a little with it on over a couple of turns. There are versions that run Temporal Mastery to gain extra turns, and so in that case, you just attack. You do temporal mastery as your third spell. You bring the phoenixes back. You attack, and then you gain an extra turn, and you attack again. And that's how you close the match. Um, but to do this, there are a bunch of things that have to happen. First of all, you need phoenixes in your graveyard, and for that matter, you have to discard them or mill them. The ways the deck has to put them in your graveyard is Lightning X, which you hunt for. It's very important card in a bunch of matchups. It kills Sheoldred. It kills almost every creature in the format that annoy you. The only creatures that these don't kill are the Niv Mizzets that play on Niv Yorion decks. But Niv and Yorion in general are not very prevalent on Arena because there's no Bring to Light here. Um, Beware of them when you go into your tournaments IRL because don't save Lightning X for Niv. It's either way you're gonna need an extra impulse or something, and the other Niv actually has X proof from monocolored, so there's not many ways to interact with it. But this deck has one. I'll show you later. Then you have Ledger Shredder, which is a great card. Has been playing in the deck since it came out. Um, Ledger Shredder says whenever a player casts the second spell in each turn, Ledger Shredder connives. Connive is draw and discard, and if you discard a spell or a non-land card, you get a +1/+1 counter. So what this does is it gives you a way of discarding your phoenixes while getting counters on it, so it grows. It's very important in aggro matchups. It's a very good blocker. If you get just one counter on it, it's a 2 mana 2/4 flying. Um, it is an amazing card in the deck. I'd recommend you play 4. Um, Options to these are like Thing in the Ice, but they haven't been playing in a while. But you could play with them. I just think Ledger Shredder is a lot better because of the draw and discard, which helps you a lot in a lot of cases. I think that the only case, or the most important case in which this is going to turn against you, it's waste not decks that want you to discard your cards. And connive is not optional. Whenever a player casts their second spell, you have to connive. So waste not decks might try to use this against you. Then we have Picklock Prankster, which is an addition from Eldraine, replacing the sorcery pieces of the puzzle, which is also an option if you want to try it. You can, but the difference between Picklock Prankster and Pieces of the Puzzle is that Pieces is a sorcery that digs 5 cards and puts 2 instant or sorceries into your hand. But the difference between being instant and sorcery or being um, milling 4 cards and 5, it's not that big. But the difference between costing 2 or costing 3, it's a lot on this deck. You can actually use this on turn 4 to find your last instant to go off with the Phoenixes, while previously you could not do that with a sorcery that costs 3. Also, you can do this end step on turn 2. It's a play that a lot of people do. It's very common, very good. And of course, I'm talking about the Free the Face spell that is on Picklock Prankster, not Picklock Prankster itself, but it also is a pretty decent creature because it has flying and vigilance. And the lastest edition of the deck, which is Prophet's Edetics Memory, uh, actually works really well with it. So what this card does is, whenever it enters the battlefield, it draws you a card. You have no maximum hand size also. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you draw more than a card this turn, you get X +1/+1 counters, where X is the number of cards you've drawn minus 1. So what this does is that you get counters based on the cards you draw besides the first one. So if you draw like 3 extra cards, you get 3 counters +1/+1. And Picklock Prankster is a good creature to put those counters on because it has flying and vigilance, so it's like you can attack with it and stay back to block in case people try to pull a funny one against you. Then I'll talk about the core of the deck, which is like 4 considers, 4 sleight of hand. I'm running 2 opt, some people run more. Um, the thing is, these are the spells that just replace themselves by finding another card. These are the 1 cost spells that you use to get your phoenixes out of the graveyard, find your stuff to do. They are very important. Then I have 3 spell pierce. Some people run 2, some people run 1. I think 3 is the right number right now. It's a meta call. I think I always like to have spell pierce available on the first turns, so I'm running 1 more. If I don't need it, I discard it to Ledger Shredder or something. But I like to have it available on first turns to prevent like thought seizes and other stuff, waste knots, you name it. There are a lot of non-creature spells you want to counter early on, and spell pierce it's amazing when you're on the draw. Um, then you have 4 Fire Impulse. I think this card is also unbelievable in this deck. It makes your deck amazing against all creature matchups. And then we have 1 Spikefield Hazard, could be a land, an extra land. Uh, I just like to have an extra spell sometimes. Most of the times I play it as a land though. Brazen Borrower is also a good one-off. I like to have one. Sometimes you want to bounce stuff. There are a lot of enchantments that exile your stuff, and sometimes you just want to bounce it back to get your stuff back for a turn. I've one time I did this. I played this really long game against. I think it was a Yorion deck, which he played a leyline binding to exile a crackling drake that I'm gonna talk about later, and then I bounced it very late in the game, and I just bounced it end of his turn, untapped and swing with the crackling drake for the win. So Brazen Borrower is quite a good card. It has a lot of lines in which he's very good. I've also just played it as a creature on the end step of the opponent, untapped, draw some cards, and then the enchantment of Prophet's LDT memory makes it a lot bigger, and you swing for like 5 or 6. Um, and then you have Treasure Cruise, which is just an insane common from Khans of Tarkir. It has Delve, which makes it cost 1 less for each card you exile from your graveyard. That usually is everything you discarded or milled besides the Phoenixes. And you just draw 3 cards. It works really well with disenchantment. It refills your hand if you're running out of cards. If you're having too many with Treasure Cruise, you can also discard one. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes you just don't have enough on your graveyard to support all 4 if you draw them all at once. And then you have your sideboard, which we'll talk in a bit. Let me just touch on the lands for a minute. So we have Otawara, Sokenzan, all of the Storm Giants. It wins a lot of games, also especially against control. I think this land is insane. I think you should run one. Some people run 2 of them. Um, then we are playing 2 Stormcarved Coast, 4 Steam Vents, 4 Spiral of Canal, 3 Riverglade Pathway. Um, I think this is pretty standard on the mana base. I just think maybe to all of the Storm Giants is not um, it's not a bad thing to have. Also to name that this deck is very cheap, so if you're new to Arena, if you want to try it's not an easy deck to play by no means, but if you wanna try out a different playstyle, a new deck, this is a very budget friendly deck because all these are commons or uncommons. You only have to craft like the Ledger Shredders, the Phoenixes, and that's about it. And then the mana base. But even if you play with more basics, this deck does pretty well. Um, Almost all the other cards are common and uncommon. Disenchantment is also rare, but you can live without playing this. Um, there are other uncommons that you could play instead of this. There is one that um, copies the next spell you cast on the turn. I think it's called Galvanic Iteration, which is also very good with Treasure Cruise. You can Galvanic Iteration, Treasure Cruise, draw 6 cards. Um, it's a card I also recommend if you don't have wild cards to play this. But I wouldn't recommend getting rid of all this. At least one should be in your deck. Two, it's sometimes kinda clunky because the card is also legendary, so you can't have both of them on the battlefield. But the second one is there in case someone breaks it. Um, so to the sideboard now. Ashiok is the first card I want to talk about because Ashiok has a very good role on this deck, which is dealing with other graveyard decks, namely the mirror match. But it's also very good if you're playing Pioneer uh, in paper tournaments. It's very good against Niv Mizzet decks or Yorion decks because it doesn't let them tutor for their things um, with Bring to Light. Um, It's pretty good on matchups like Grease Fang that are not very common right now, but you know, some decks web and flow in and out of the format. Um, it's amazing against any graveyard-based strategy. I think you should have them. There are people even running these on the main board. I think it's amazing game one if you have this um, on the mirror. Next, we have Brotherhood's End, which is an amazing card against all aggro decks. Crackling Drake, which is a very important card on the sideboard. I think almost all decks run Drake on the sideboard. It's a very, very good creature against 8 of your graveyard, because its power it's equal to the number of instances and sorceries you own in exile and your graveyard. So even if your opponent exiles all your graveyard, your instants that you add there still count for Crackling's Drake power, um, which is amazing. I run 3. I've seen people run 2, some people run 4. Yeah, it's up to you, but I don't think you should run 0. That's just what I'm saying. The card is also uncommon, so very easy to craft on Arena. Uh, then we are running 2 Disdainful Strokes to catch stuff that is uh, big, like you want to get some Sheoldreds out, if you want to get Bring to Light, if you want to get I don't know. There are decks that play big stuff that really impacts your game plan. That's when you bring Stroke against them. You can also play negates in this slot. You can play more disputes. I'm running one. I think dispute is an amazing card. If you want to run more, I wouldn't be shocked. Stroke is replaceable, really. It's a meta call. Ethergust is also meta. I think it's better when green and red spells are flying around. Uh, Mono green has seen a bit of a resurgence lately, so I'm running to Ethergust. By the way, Stroke is also pretty good against mono green. It gets the Cavaliers, it gets the sorcery that they get to bring 2 permanents of the top 6 of their library. Yeah, I think Stroke and Gust are a meta call against mono green, but I haven't been getting them lately. I don't know why. Earlier in the week I was getting a lot of mono green, so I put those in. Um, but be mindful that these 5 are all counter magic that you should adjust considering the meta. So if you're facing a lot of blue decks, you should run more disputes. If you're facing a lot of big decks, you should have more strokes. Against green and red decks, you should have gusts. If you're not facing these decks, you should have negates. They are better against some other matchups. Then I have one young pyromancer. It could actually, I'm just gonna replace it right now. I don't know why is it a young pyromancer. It should be an iconoclast. I think it's straight up better. I think it's called Third Path Iconoclast, right? Yeah. No, no. Go there. Good. So, Iconoclast is really good. Um, it creates you tokens that you can utilize out of just casting your non-creature spells. This is also a way of playing around Graveyard 8. Uh, There was a game I had on stream today in which we basically just put counters of these onto the tokens because your creature is already a big target. It has a big target on the forehead because they can't let you keep putting 1/1s into the battlefield for free. So you make the tokens big and then you start attacking with them. I just run one because I don't have slots for more. I prefer Crackling Drake over these cards. However, I think it has a role to play on the deck, and I play one. Um, when people go very aggro on hating your graveyard, I cut a Phoenix and put a Third Path Iconoclast into the deck. Then I have 2 Rending Volley, which is basically extra removal for like mono white humans, which is a disgusting matchup. Um, so you play this against them. Uh, You play this against spirits. You play this against a lot of stuff. I think Running Volley is an amazing removal spell. It's also very good against Greasefang, even though it's not, as I said, it's not very prevalent on the meta right now. Sometimes you have to face it. Sometimes you get random opponents on your matches, and Running Volley just goes through all those matchups. Some people prefer running Torch the Weak. I think that's the name. Let me just look for it. Um, so if you think you're going to have matchups in which you need to exile the wait, it's not Torch the Weak. If you think you're gonna have matchups in which you are going to need to exile your opponent's threats, I think this is the better card. However, I don't think you have enough stuff on the deck to sacrifice to deal 3 instead of 2. So be mindful that you're gonna sacrifice a bit of reach in the sense that this only gets creatures with toughness 2 in this deck, and volley deals 4 damage. So be mindful of that. What else didn't I talk about? I think I got over everything. Let me just make a few, take a note here, which is on Brotherhood's end. There's another mode which you don't use very often, but it happened today on the stream. I boarded this against Spirits, and he played 2 portable holes, one exiling Ledger Shredder and another exiling the enchantment, and then he played the tension sphere, and I just used this and destroyed all of those artifacts. Be mindful, this mode is in there. Destroying all artifacts is a thing, and in some matchups you're going to use it. Don't forget about it. Also, in a mirror, I use this to kill 2 creatures and kill also Ashiok. This also deals damage to each planeswalker, so this is just a slight note I wanted to make here because this card is deceptively better than it looks. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to talk about here. So this has been the Phoenix Deck Tech, and I hope to see you guys on my other videos on the stream. Leave a like here on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch. The link is down below. You can also watch all other deck techs I've been doing. Remember, these decks are legal in Pioneer and Explorer on Arena. And the deck techs are here. The deck lists will be linked down below also. Thank you for watching. See ya.